Oh my god. Look at how many comments come down, dude. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. What's up, guys? We're here. Welcome back to the channel. So today I'm bringing you an updated guide to my cast on Comet Meteor build. It's for the Sorceress. Now, I will say that I've been getting a lot of questions about this in my live streams, and a lot of people have been wanting me to update the cast on minion death Comet build, because the Comet build was the only build that actually survived the initial nerfs with the, cast on freeze, right? So cast on minion, we were able to put that together, and it was phenomenal. We were able to grind and just destroy all content. Now we've kind of changed the version up just a little bit. We've had to add some more stuff. We added some more damage. We dropped one cast on minion death, so now we just have 2 instead of 3, but in favor of some better supports. So I have a whole written guide for you over on Mobalytics, which is going to be down in the description below. But I wanted to kind of go over some of these changes and what we actually did to the build to make it a little bit more fun and efficient. However, disclaimer, this build will drain your mana. I have 3,400, almost 3,500 mana, and boy, do I run out when all the comments start raining down, okay? So just keep that in mind. As a Chronomancer, this is just a stepping stone build for me. I'm converting it into a crit version of Comet with Frost Nova, so we will have a guide for that coming soon. But this is just... it drains your mana. So that's why we have a couple different skills here to use. But I'm going to go over everything and just kind of break down the changes and what we did to make this build actually work. So first things first, let's go over to our equipment, because this is probably the most important stuff. So we still have our wand here. We have an attune wand. The biggest things here is you just want any % damage as extra anything. Doesn't really matter what it is. Increased spell damage. Mana. We want mana on absolutely everything. Plus to cold spells, increased critical hit chance, gain mana on per enemy killed is really nice. Cast speed is also good. But as long as you get mana spell damage, plus to cold spells, and then increased critical, it's really nice. The next big thing is the Omen Scepter. So we went away from the unique scepter and shield in favor of a wand and a regular scepter with increased spirit. Now, the reason for this is because we needed to pump out more damage. One thing with Comet was I was struggling being able to scale the damage. So we made this switch, and this is just really, really nice. However, I will say that I did test it with the old scepter, which is still fine. That and that other shield is still really, really good. So if you come over here to Meteor, like this scepter, the font of power is still very, very strong. I mean, 50% is really good. We just need more mana. And then, of course, the increased here for energy shield as well as the mana regen is very, very nice. And the increased spell damage per 10 spirit is also very good. So, like, these two things you could probably still use. But if we come over here to our damage, like right now my damage is 92,000 on my main Meteor. My secondary Meteor is only 33, but my main Meteor is 92,000. So if we were to swap these, like, we can't even use, because we don't have the strength for this yet. So, like, we don't have enough spirit. Like, it's not going to be enough. Even if we were to put in this ring as an example, just to swap to get the strength, right? Like, we just don't have the maximum spirit. So, like, we have this here. There's 70 extra spirit that we can run, but now we can't run Archmage, which is a big reason why we had to make the swap. So, Archmage is a huge reason. You could take Grim Feast off, but it still doesn't matter because you don't have enough to run Archmage, which really scales our damage. So, now you can see our damage here. Our main damage without Archmage is only 22,000, which is terrible. So, running the wand not only gives us a lot more damage, but then running the scepter is going to give us a lot more damage as well. So, let me see. What do I need? 54 strength. I got to put this back on. I forgot I got to do this all the time just to make the swap here. Just because it's silly. But now now we can put the scepter back on. So, not only does the scepter give us infinitely more mana, more spirit, excuse me, but it allows us to run Archmage, which gives us a huge DPS boost. Because now, like I said, this thing goes up to 87, and then once we swap our ring in, now we're at 91, almost 92,000. So the gear is still fine. Like, you could choose to run these. I still prefer running these once you make the swap over, but these two items are really going to make the build shine. So the reason we want the scepter is because you can get this spirit increase up to 80%. You can actually get it a lot higher. You can get it up to like 89%, which is really, really good. But you want an Omen Scepter for Malice. Malice on here is going to give us some nice critical weakness. So with Persistence, this gives critical weakness, duration is increased. It applies it in our presence. So our presence is like, what, 6 meters? Yeah, 6 meter radius. So it just applies critical weakness to the enemies, which is really, really nice. So as you're getting close to them, it just applies it. So these two, very, very good. Scales our damage infinitely. It's really, really great. So 92,000, and then Archmage really scales it. So these two will really help with all your spirit. I highly suggest getting a strength roll on here, or get a strength roll on your belt. Excuse me. Excuse me. A high strength roll, so that way you can actually use this, because you will need 54 strength at a minimum to use it. It's the only gear piece where we actually need something outside of int. Now next, of course, the Fireflower Solar Amulet. You have to have this for the build. If you guys are new to this kind of build and how this mechanic works, we are rocking the Solar Amulet because it says we take 100 fire damage when we ignite an enemy. However, we're going to pair that with the Necromantic Talisman. So instead, that bonus applies to our minions. So now our minions are going to take the fire damage when we ignite, and our minions are going to be Raging Spirits. Raging Spirits are going to be what's summoned off of either our Flame Wall and or Fireball in this build. And when they ignite an enemy, they will take damage and then die, which will give us our energy to summon comets. You can see that we have 10, and then boom, 50, boom, we summon comets, right? So that's the concept of the build. You do need this amulet. It is 100% required. All right, next we have I don't even know how to pronounce this, but the Atziri's Disdain Gold Circlet. So this is very unique. This is like an Everlasting Gaze. So what this does is it gives us 29% of maximum life as extra maximum energy shield. So the more life we have, the more extra energy shield we have. If we take this off, our energy shield is gone because we decided to take Eldritch Battery to convert everything into mana. So you can see that, like, when we put this back on, now we have 2,000 energy shield. This acts as like an Everlasting Gaze. So then what happens is that our shield has to drop, then our life pool. So we're not doing Mind Over Matter yet. I haven't been able to sustain the mana, so we're not doing Mind Over Matter. So this gives us an extra layer of defense. And it actually really works. Now, there is the 20% damage taken bypasses energy shield. So that's not like necessarily a bad thing, but it's still okay. Like, this just gives us an extra layer. If you don't want to run this helmet, it's perfectly fine. You could run a regular helmet just with some increased stats. Be perfectly fine, right? Like, you could run one to get some more mana, like run an ES base and then get, maximum mana, maximum life, increased energy shield, and then a few reses if you need help capping out. All those are perfectly fine. Chest piece, Expert Keith Raiment, increased mana regen. Same stuff on all the gear. Energy shield, maximum life, maximum mana, intelligence, and then reses. I will tell you this, a little tip, guys, for when you're shopping for some of this gear. Definitely just go get gear that has high reses, but 2 reses instead of 3. It's significantly cheaper than getting 3 reses on a gear piece. You can see that all these, like this is 1, this is 2, this is 2, and then my rings each have 2. So, or like even 1 on this one. So it's just like very efficient. Same thing on my belt, 2 on the belt, and I'm able to cap my reses, no problem. You can get much higher rolls of resistances if you just go get 2 reses instead of 3. But yeah, all the gear, guys, same thing. Energy shield, cold damage, maximum life, maximum mana. You need to have mana everywhere, preferably 100 plus on every piece that you can get, because that just scales not only Archmage, but it just gives us more mana in general to sustain this build. The rings, next important thing, you want increased mana regeneration rate. I have low rolls right now, but you can get these upward to like 70% mana regen. So if you can get them higher, that's great. I only got like 40s, so, but this is really, really good. So that's the gear, guys. Now let's go ahead and go into the skills, because I know you guys are just eager to see all this stuff. So we already talked about Malice. Sigil of Power is only for when we're doing bosses. So we drop Sigil of Power. You guys know from playing Spark or seeing the Spark builds that this just scales our damage. It just gives us a nice damage boost. And the AoE here, that's why we have Magnified Effect. You can also, a little trick here is if you quality the staff. I know that wands as well as staffs do not get any kind of damage increase or anything like that. However, if you quality the staff, I will show you. Let's see if I have enough. If I have enough of these. If I have enough, I'll do it. Okay, cool. So we got 20 of these. These are pretty rare. So let's see. You guys can see it increases the overall AoE or the base skill that's on the wand or staff. So in this case, mana drain, or in the chiming staff is Sigil of Power. So if we take out the magnified effect, you guys can see how wide this is. So now if we go in here and we just quality this to 20, now if we go ahead and do my Sigil of Power, now you can see how much wider that is, right? Like you guys can see how much wider that is. And then if we throw in a magnified effect, it's going to make the AoE so much larger. Look at that. So then when you're fighting a boss, you have all this room to kind of move around as you're continuing to get the Sigil of Power boost. So qualitying it does seem like pointless to some degree, but in this case, it does give a big boost to the size of that, so that way you can move around and you're not confined to such a small area. In addition, qualitying this scepter will give you more spirit, which allows you to run all of our 2 cast on minions, our Raging Spirits, our Grim Feast, Archmage, and allows us to really have some support here. So that's Sigil of Power. We only use this on bosses. Next, Raging Spirits. I'll talk about the 2 main skills in just a second. So we got Raging Spirits as our minions. So we do Infernal Legion, Feeding Frenzy, Minion Instability. You are not required to run Fire Exposure. However, I do like this. It just gives more exposure when you're doing igniting an enemy. You don't have to have this, though. You can take this off. It does not matter. You don't need to have a 4-link. I just happen to have it. But you need to run these 3 so that way your minions take more damage and ignite. Infernal Legion is the biggest reason for this. We ignite here, and then that way they'll instantly die. So Raging Spirits, the trick with Raging Spirits is we want to have the lowest skill gem possible, so that way our minions' health in theory is the lowest it can possibly be. So when paired with our Solar Amulet, when we ignite, they take the damage and instantly die. If you have a higher level Raging Spirits, they're going to have more life, which takes them longer to die, which means you're not summoning comets. So you need to get this at level 4. You can get this from the campaign at level 4 in Act 1. Okay, if you need to start a new character, just go up until you get your first spirit. It's in Act 1, and then take that level 4 gem and get Raging Spirits. Next, 2 cast on minions. Okay, 100 spirit each. I highly, highly suggest that you guys quality both of these for a 20% increased energy gain. Excuse me. So my energy gain on my cast on minions buffs are both 71% because I quality them both to 20, which is fantastic. Now, a good point about energy is your energy gain modifier. There is no possible way to get this to the old days where like cast on freeze, when you freeze an enemy, we summon a comet. However, we can get this to 2 casts. So every time we have 10 minions die, we will get a summon from both of our cast on minions. In order to accomplish this, we need 141% minimum energy gain modifier. So when you see me cast these 10, I know this is at 30, but 1, 2 will hit. So 1, 2 will hit. I go 30% over. So each 5 minions or Raging Spirits give me 50% energy, which allows me to cast. So that's very, very important. Now, for our gems, we're not running any support gems on either one of these casts on minions that give us increased energy. Okay, we don't need to do that. We want to maximize how much damage we do. So we're not running any supports that give us energy. So how do we get to 143% or a minimum of 141? So the biggest thing here is on your tree is you're going to come take these points here. So you're going to get 888. This is all increased energy. If you really want, you could take energized. You don't have to. It's totally up to you. I'm not running it, but that's if you want to, feel free. I have found that you don't need this extra point. So these points are just fine. So you'll get 16% extra energy. If you really want to, in the tree, you can run these points here for more energy. 15% and increased energy, 8 and 8. You don't need this, however. So it's kind of a waste of points. I would just get these ones here. Now, that's only going to get us part way there. The next biggest thing is going to be these gems that has, say, meta skills gain % increase energy. I have 5 of these. 2, 3, 4. I think I have 5. Maybe it's just 4. So I have 4 of these gems that all give at least a minimum of 12% increased energy. If you have 4 with 12, then you are going to be able to get to the minimum of 141. Mine's at 143, and then you're good to go. Every 2 casts is going to give you minions, or the comets. So as far as supports, we got Spell Echo for more damage, Concentrated Effect for more damage, and Considered Casting for more damage. That's how we're able to get to the 92% damage. On the second comet, we're running Spell Cascade, Lightning Exposure, because as you guys can see here, that we do deal lightning damage, which happens to be about 20,000 more than our cold damage. So we want to apply Lightning Exposure, and then we have Inspiration just to make this one cost a little bit less to help with mana. We have Grim Feast here for obvious reasons. Level this up to the highest you possibly can. I need to quality this. I just don't have enough yet. But gaining this can make our energy shield here go absolutely insane. Next, we have Conductivity for just curses to neg their lightning res. And then we got Frostbomb here. Frostbomb is very important for bosses. The reason for this is we throw Frostbomb to inflict exposure. Okay, we give exposure with Strip Away, which has an increased effect. And this is really, really good for bosses just to help deal some more damage and get their resistances down into the negatives. Now, Archmage. Now, if you guys don't want to run Archmage, that is fine. Archmage is incredibly powerful. I highly suggest that you quality this and get this to the highest it possibly can. We gain 8% of damage as extra lightning for each 100 maximum mana. So we got a lot of damage here. Just to showcase, I'm at 92,000. If we take this away, we go to 31,000. So right now, my level 19 Archmage is literally tripling my damage. It triples my meteor damage. Just for context, it triples my meteor damage. Now, with that, it is going to make it cost more, 5% more of our maximum mana, but that's okay because the damage is just insane. So Archmage is the biggest reason we're able to scale our damage so high. I'm doing Lightning Mastery to give it a plus, and then we got Clarity for more mana regen. On Conductivity, we got Heightened Curse to make the curse more effective. Now, for the last 2 skills, in our previous video, we had Flame Wall, and now we have Fireball. So there's 2 different concepts here that I want to talk about, and I think they're both good. It just depends on what you want to do. So Flame Wall is our original. So if you want to main Flame Wall, then the 3 that I suggest you use is Arcane Tempo, Mobility, and Energy Barrier, just to help to get our energy shield back if we happen to get stunned. What's great about Firewall is if you use the lowest possible gem you can get, the mana is only 13. Obviously, with the increase, it's only 178, but our Fireball is 209. So Flame Wall is pretty cheap. Flame Wall is not going to do any damage, and with as much energy or mana regeneration we have, it's not that big of a deal. Now, the difference between the 2 skills is with Flame Wall, you're not going to summon as many comets, but it makes it better to isolate onto bosses or elites because everything's right here as opposed to Fireball, which makes them all scatter all over the place. However, for like mapping and doing damage, as you guys saw in the clip, Fireball was pretty dang good. You lose so much mana when you're casting. So it's kind of like a back and forth. I use both because there's some times where like I can just fly through and like cast some of these and the minions die and it's fine. It's no big deal. But for bigger mobs, I just use Fireball. Now, if you want to, you swap over Arcane Tempo plus Mobility down to fireball if you just want to fireball and use fireball only. And then you use scattershot as well as unleash for increased damage. Now, the cool thing about fireball, as you guys saw, as I'll go into slick here, is that, like, it summons so many, which is the point of this build, is it summons so many. So if I fireball, right, like it summons so many. It summons so many meteors, right? Like, it's just so many. Now, if I do firewall, like, firewall is still good, but it just makes the build different. Like, you can sustain the mana cost for flame wall much easier than you can with fireball, right? But as you can see, so many more meteors come down when you use fireball. And the reason for this is because when you cast fireball, all these different fireballs can explode and summon raging spirits. And then when they die, it just stacks up the energy in order to cast Comet. So it's really, really nice. So if you throw it into like a big mob, there's so many that come down. Like, that was like 10 of those. You know, it just summons so many. It makes it really, really nice. But you can see how my mana just drains when that happens. It just drains my mana. So you see how, like, my mana is empty. Now, I have a mana regeneration rate of 760, which is really good. But for not being a Stormweaver and not being able to have access to Arcane Surge in the Ascendancy, that's what makes this a little bit tougher to run as a Chronomancer. And, like, that's why I have Flame Wall as the option. Because, like, when you're running through here, like on Flame Wall, you're not going to summon as many meteors. But you can see the damage is so good. Like, look at my mana. Look how much easier it is to sustain my mana running Flame Wall instead of Fireball. You just don't summon as many comets, however, but your mana is easier to sustain. So I think that is, like, an important thing. And again, like, even when you're running up on a group, like, you just throw it and it still kills them just fine. You just don't have as many. So it's kind of a back and forth. I want you guys to be able to pick and choose what you want to run, so you got that way you guys have an option. But that's why I have those two. So now let's get on to the passive tree, the last point of the video. I don't want this to go too long. So the passive tree, I have this down into the description below in the mobilytics. It didn't change too much from our previous tree, but we did add some things. So we have, we took a few points out of here. The biggest things is we have stuff that give like increased extra damage, crit damage here for more damage. We got more energy shield and mana, more crit chance. We came down here, got more crit chance. Heavy Frost is a huge node. More mana, right? More mana in here with Ether Flow as well as raw mana. And then if we come over here, we got adverse growth for more reduced life regeneration rate, but that's okay. 20% of damage is recouped as mana. So if you do get hit, you get your mana back so you can cast more meteors. Then, of course, we got all natural. We got some calibration for more energy shield and increased mana. So you got a lot of options here. We did take some more spell damage for this and mana regen. So all of this is reflected down into the build. You can swap some of this stuff out if you guys really want. I will say that Eternal Youth is very, very good in this build. Eternal Youth, which is going to be my next point taken. I'm 87, so when I hit 88, I'm going to take Eternal Youth. So what this does is it flips our shield and life. So as it stands right now, my life just has a recovery and or a regeneration, and then my shield just recovers as it goes away. And when we use our potion, it gives me life back, not energy shield. So this Eternal Youth just flips it. So when my shield's going down and my shield is more than my life, I can pop my Q for my life flask, and that will regenerate my energy shield, which is really nice. I think that's really, really cool. So I'm probably going to take that as an added defensive layer, so that way I can always keep my energy shield up before my life actually gets hit, which is really, really nice. But yeah, guys, that's the passive tree. I can tell you that I did take a lot of these crit nodes out, and I just put them all into mana regen. Like, everywhere I could get mana regen. I think my mana regen was almost 1,000, and it still didn't matter. When I was casting fireballs on a big group of mobs and I summoned like 10, 12, 15 meteors down, my mana is just at 0. The difference between like 300 mana, you know, like, or 240 mana, it seems like a lot per second, but it really doesn't matter when, like, I throw one fireball, all the monsters die. Like the 740 is just more than enough, right? So I opted for more damage in the passive tree, which is very important. Now, as far as the jewels, like I said, guys, you're looking for stuff like the main thing is meta skills, increase energy. Other things can be area of effect, cold damage. Those are good. Increase maximum energy shield is huge. Increase maximum energy shield and meta gains, meta skills gain energy are the two most important. After that, you can do, oh, it looks like I crashed. So yeah, in the gems, meta skills, increase maximum energy shield are just the most important because with Eldritch Battle, we would convert everything over. So yeah, increase maximum energy shield, meta gain, and then anything after that would be like cold damage, cast speed, spell damage is all good. Increased duration or increased damage of ailments that you inflict. Anything like that is pretty good. So that's what I would do for the jewels, guys. They're pretty cheap. Definitely get one, if not two, recover 2% of mana on kill. That really helps with sustain. If you have two of these, that's great. One is just fine, but two of them is really, really good. I would probably, if I can get increased maximum energy shield and one with 2%, that would be really solid. As far as the ascendancy for Chronomancer, if you guys are going to play as a Chronomancer, you got to take Apex of the Moment. That really helps. And then I just did the Heartbeat plus the Rapid River just for taking damage, recouped his life. It just helps you be a little bit more tankier. None of these other nodes really work with this build in particular. We don't have any cooldowns, so there's no sense for any cooldowns. Time freeze might be okay, just to kind of freeze stuff, but we're using time freeze for our crit build that we're making. So this just seemed the most logical thing, is just to be a little bit more tanky, right? Like 30% of damage taken is recouped as life is really nice. And then damage taken recouped as mana is also really nice. So we kind of just stay alive for a while, which is really good. So yeah, guys, that's the build. Like the video, comment down below with any questions that you guys have. I'll be happy to answer. But this is the update to the Cast on Comet build. I know a lot of people have been asking me about it, if I was going to do an update guide. And here it is. This is what I've been able to do. I can farm T15s really comfortably in here. Now, I know people are going to ask me about boss damage. Boss damage is perfectly fine in this build. Like, boss damage in here is no problem whatsoever. It's very, very easy in T15 to T16s. Now, I will tell you for pinnacle bosses, so like breach bosses, anything like that, I have not tested, so I can't say for sure. But I would say that this is probably just something to kind of, if you like Comet on Sorceress, then this is probably going to be fun for just T15, T16 map farming is what I would suggest. I haven't really went and tested against bosses just yet, so disclaimer on that. But yeah, guys, like the video, comment down below, help me out with the algorithm. Don't forget to subscribe, guys, and as always, stay gaming. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.